Hey, welcome back. Eric Arnold here in my politics barn, Tuesday, October 15th in the afternoon. Hey, I'm here to tell you why I voted for Donald Trump. Yeah, that's right, I voted already. Why haven't you? I've already voted. It's done, over with. So I've been trying to come up with a video here where I could say under 6 hours why I'm voting for Donald Trump. There's so many reasons. Billionaire Bill Ackman, if you know who he is, he's a hedge fund guy. He put out a tweet listing 33 different reasons why he's voting for Donald Trump. And I guess I could probably just make a video and refer to that and say what he said, because I probably agree with 32 of them. But I've been trying to distill this down into something, less than 45 minutes. And I've been failing. This is like my third or fourth attempt at this video. Now, if anyone new is here, saw the headline and said, why is this guy voting for that evil man, Donald Trump? Let me tell you who I am. Eric Arnold. I am a poli-sci major, a history major. I've been following politics for 30 years. I'm as much of an expert on this as anybody. I live in the swingiest of all swing states, Pennsylvania. This barn is my studio. I've been everything in my political life. When I was young, I was a Democrat, falling into the Churchill quote, a man at 20 who is not a Democrat has no heart. But then I became a Republican, following the Churchill quote, a man at 30 who is not a conservative has no brains. Well, I do have brains, so I stopped being a Democrat. I've been a libertarian. I think there were 8 of us, I believe. There was Penn Jillette, Kurt Russell, the Paul boys, and then myself, and then 2 other dudes over there somewhere. So that's, libertarians. There's just a few of it. It's a rare breed. So here I am. Now, why am I voting, or I should say, why have I voted for Trump? I don't think Trump is a great president. I thought he was a good president. I'm more or less voting against them, the Democrats. The Democrats have gotten so radical, so left, so communist. You can't even begin to support them. Furthermore, it's their tactics that have driven this country wide apart. Their tactics are simply unfair. If I try not to make this too complicated and use big words, I just want to try to make it as simple as I can. We used to have rules in this country where both sides would just play fair and they would respect each other. And it was the rules that made this country stable, made it great, if you will, in that people could feel comfortable that they knew what was coming tomorrow. Foreigners would feel comfortable putting their money into this country, that it wasn't going to go poof in some crazy coup or something, that we had these rules and that no man was above the law. Well, the Democrats right now have decided that Donald Trump is beneath the law, and that never used to happen either. So, yeah, Donald Trump's not above the law, but he's certainly not beneath the law, and the Democrats believe otherwise. So they're making a true mess out of this country, and they want to. They want to wreck the country and, on the ashes, build a new communist paradise, with them in charge, of course. I don't think that's controversial. I think it's pretty clear. Observing and listening to them over the last 20 years, this is what they're interested in. They have no interest in the traditions of this country, of things the way it's always been done in this country. Hope and change, right? Well, we're getting the change part, and the hope part is that we keep hoping it's going to get better, and it never does. But we're getting change up our ass, and it's not good change. So, yeah, I am basically, Donald Trump's a capitalist. Kamala Harris is a communist. So naturally, I would be in the Trump camp. The reason I'm supporting Trump with the white-hot intensity of the sun is not because I love Trump so much, it's because I hate them so much. They are awful. Let's just go through a couple of their greatest hits here, all of which are norm-breaking, norm-shattering, destroy whatever fair play used to exist between the parties. That's the thing I keep coming back to, and I've said this before, that there was always kind of a give and take between the two parties throughout the 200-some year history of this country, that if you were in charge, if you were lucky enough to be voted into power, you would respect the minority. You would respect the other team because, one, you want to get their votes at some point. Two, you may not be in power forever. In fact, it's likely you won't be. And then the shoe's going to be on the other foot. So if you've been sticking it to them your entire tenure in power, hey, it might get kind of ugly for you when they're in power. So that's why there was always respect between the two teams. Well, the Democrats have thrown that completely out. They're done with that. They just don't believe they're ever going to lose again. And they're acting like the world will end if they are not in power, which they know is abject bullshit. But they continue to lie about it just because they think it's going to keep them in power. That's another reason why you can't even begin to respect or vote for the Democrats. They lie as easy as people breathe. They lie like they're breathing. It's just an endless stream of falsehoods, lies, nonsense, absolute abject lies. Hey, let's just take a few hits here down memory lane. Remember the Russia hoax? When Donald Trump was initially elected back in 2016, they told us he was a Russian agent. They got this huge investigation going that lasted 2 years, tying up Donald Trump's first 2 years in office, assuring that they would win the midterm elections, and finally, somebody with some stones, Bill Barr, came in and shut the whole thing down and forced them to put their cards on the table. And they assured us that they had all this evidence that Donald Trump was a Russian agent. And they had no evidence of it at all because he wasn't. It was all a drummed up lie initiated by the Hillary Clinton campaign, but more than excitedly pursued and continued by such evil people as James Comey, McCabe, Mueller, Weissman, some other, I'm sure there's countless names I could name, but again, trying to keep this under 45 minutes. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen. I mean, that made Watergate look like a tea party. It's like here you've got the deepest, the highest levels of government are fabricating a fraud on the American people to get a duly elected American president. It's unheard of, but no penalty's been paid. It was all just sort of like, oh, that didn't work. All right, we're on to the next thing. And they don't even remember or admit that it happened. It was a scandal of the highest order that these Democrats attempted this coup. They failed, and nothing happened to them other than it woke me up as to who they were. That happened. You know, that was where I became awake. When Donald Trump first came down the escalator, and I've told you this before, I was less than impressed. I was not convinced that this guy was going to be a president for me. I basically was not with him. I admit it, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I would argue it takes a big man to admit that. People will do anything to not admit they were wrong. Well, I was wrong. Pretty big. I was wrong pretty big there. So Donald Trump wasn't a liberal. He wasn't a leftist. He wasn't a crazy person. As it turned out, his presidency was pretty good. The only reason I give pretty good and not great is because he screwed up the pandemic big time. And for that, I cannot forgive him and give him an A++. Is that a Tom Brady phrase? An A+, he gets a B minus because of the pandemic, which is light years better than what the Democrats get. They get an F minus. So Trump is clearly superior as far as his presidency compared to the Biden presidency. But that's my history with the Democrat lies and Trump, the early Trump days. So around the time the hoax blew up, the Russia hoax, that's where I went, oh my God, I've been lied to. I've been lied to in a big way. So that was where I switched sides. What about the laptop? The laptop from Hunter Biden, which the FBI had in its possession for over a year before the 2020 election and did nothing with it, of course, because they were fully invested in the defeat of their boss, Donald Trump. The deep state exists. That's one of the things we have to give Donald Trump credit for, is that he has awakened us to the fact that there is a deep state consisting of Republican and Democrat bureaucrats in Washington, and they hate us, the people. They hate us, and Donald Trump is our representative, so they hate him. That laptop would have swung the 2020 election, according to polls after the election. It was hidden from the people 3 weeks before the election date, hidden by the media, hidden by the deep state, which ran around, that's down here, big tech government censorship, ran around telling all the big tech, Twitter at the time, owned by Jack Dorsey, Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, Google, hey, you can't talk about that. You got to suppress that. That doesn't exist. There is no laptop. And they did it. They did it. That was a total fraud perpetrated by big tech and the government on us, the people, because the laptop did exist. It was not from Russia, which was the lie they were pushing. That was a straight lie. The laptop was not from Russia. We know that now. The same government that was lying to us is now using that same laptop in cases against Hunter Biden. In court, they're admitting, yeah, this laptop's totally valid. In fact, this is the evidence we're using to charge this guy with crimes A, B, and C. So, total straight lies and fraud done by the Democrat Party. Get vaccinated or lose your job. That's one of my favorites. How dare they? How dare these Democrats? That was Joe Biden when he first got into office, demanding that all Americans get this experimental, controversial, not sure if it works or not vaccination. As it turned out, it doesn't work very well at all. Demanding that they get this thing or he would fire them. He would make sure that his government cracked down on, I believe it was employers with 100 or more employees, and would go into those employers and say, do you have unvaccinated employees? Then you're dead. You're on the hook and we're going to hammer the hell out of you because we're OSHA and we can do that. So basically the employer was forced to go, I'm sorry, John, I know that you want to manage your own health, and you're only 25, and this virus is probably just not going to affect you at all because that's what the statistics show. but you have to get the vaccination or I got to let you go. That's the most un-American thing since the last un-American thing these bastards have done. It was unbelievable, but they did it because they're thugs, they're authoritarians, and they don't give a shit about the American people. What about, as I previously mentioned, government big tech censorship? This is stuff that would make Richard Nixon blush, is the Democrat deep state running around telling YouTube and Facebook, hey, we don't like that post. Oh, we don't like what John X-Ray 38 said over there. You got to take that down. You got to take this down. You got to take that down. That guy over there said masks don't work. You got to take that down. What happened to free speech? That used to be the most fundamental right we have as Americans. That's why I make these videos. It's because I like being able to speak my mind, and it pisses me off when people tell me to shut up. That really pisses me off. I've had 2 different videos taken down by YouTube for no reason whatsoever other than they don't like what I said. It's not dangerous. It's not invoking violence. Oh, and by the way, you can yell fire in a crowded theater. That's one of the most tropes they run around with. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. Yes, actually, that is 100% totally legal. That's actually part of the argument, is that free speech is easy when I talk to you and say, yeah, I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are really that good, or I really don't like that Aaron Rodgers. That's easy free speech. What's not easy free speech is when I walk up and tell you something that's unpopular or controversial, and you go, I don't think I like that. What do you think? No, I don't like that either. I really think that we think you shouldn't be allowed to say that. You're against free speech. You're censors. You're censors. Free speech is being able to say the unpopular. And it's just no more complicated than that. And these bastards want to take it away from us. You should be very concerned anytime you hear somebody use the word misinformation. Only Democrats use that phrase. You don't hear Trump using it. Hey, that's misinformation. You know, he'll say fake news, but there's really nothing he can do about it. And I don't even know he says that's fake news, but he doesn't say, I think there should be a law against fake news. I don't hear him say that. You're allowed to lie. You know, unfortunately, the Democrats, that's legal. It's free speech. They can say whatever they want. It's legal. It's legal to lie. So, that just is what it is. Trump's allowed to also then say, you're lying, fake news. But then they get mad. Oh my God, Donald Trump's lying. No, you're lying, and you want him to shut up and not be able to call you out on it. It's awful. And then we get to the last one, which a lot of this relates back to number 4, the censorship of free speech, is this awful, horrifying lawfare, which has never taken place like this in this country ever. I don't know where this lawfare dates to. I guess, if we were trying to, maybe somewhat be conciliatory and say, oh, okay, we shouldn't have done that. Maybe the Clinton impeachment, perhaps. I was all for the Clinton impeachment when it was going on. I admit that was a mistake. We should have never gotten involved with that. I was young. I was 30 years younger then. And there were people older, like, my age now, going, this is a big mistake. We should not get involved in this. This sucks. And why are we doing this? And they were right. They were right. We should not have impeached Bill Clinton. Should have just handled that some other way. By the same measure, Probably it started with the Nixon impeachment, where Nixon was one of the most popular presidents we've ever had. He won one of the biggest landslides, if not the biggest landslide in the history of this country. And within 2 years, we had thrown him out of office. How did that happen? That should not have happened, I would argue. Should not have happened. And I think that is the genesis of this lawfare. Once the Democrats realized, wow, holy shit, that worked. I can't believe it. He was so damn powerful and popular, and we just kept going at him, and eventually he just folded like a cheap suit, and we won. We're in power. We get the taste of blood now. Let's remember that. Let's go back to that anytime we need it. Well, now they're doing it just whatever rules or norms they had in place in the 70s, they've thrown them out the window. I mean, now, things that have never been done before, raiding an ex-president's home with the FBI. How many counts have they charged this guy with? Like 90-some counts in 4 separate cases. And it's all stuff that everyone else has either done or little nickel and dime crap that no one's ever been charged for in the history of the world. They've changed statutes of limitations to get this guy. They brought cases in friendly Democrat areas to ensure that he gets convicted and he does not get a fair shake. It's criminal. I guess I don't want to use that word because then you know that has certain connotations to it. It's really a word that doesn't mean that much in politics anymore, criminal, because as I said, you take Donald Trump and you set him in front of 12 Democrats, well, he's a convicted for just existing. It's like, Donald Trump, you've been charged with being Donald Trump. Well, guilty as charged, I guess, Your Honor. You admit it. You are a convicted felon because you are Donald Trump. That's essentially what we're doing. No, what they're doing is evil. It's wrong. It's morally reprehensible. It breaks every rule of fair play, every one of them. It's the kind of thing, if you were a child and you did that to your playmate on the playground, your parents would ground you. They would say, what are you doing? You can't do that. You hit him. You know, how would you like it if he hit you back? You know, you're treating him so mean. Why are you doing that? He might retaliate. Then you know, what should happen if we're using the vernacular of the playground is you treat one of your playmates poorly, you bully them. That goes on until that playmate gets the shits of it and beats the hell out of you. That is probably what should happen, metaphorically speaking, in this country. And that's what this election's all about. Metaphorically, we need to beat the living shit out of these Democrats at the ballot box. You know, we need to drum these guys with numbers that they've never seen before, and maybe a message might be sent there. Hey, behave. You know, your methods aren't working for you. Now, I don't think they'll get the message. I just think these people are too far gone. The only thing you could hope is that the younger crop of Democrats maybe somewhere have some common sense and some humanity that you can perhaps at some point in the distant future talk to them and negotiate with them and maybe narrow the gap in this country and maybe bring some people together. But that's probably doubtful because they've been indoctrinated by the same communists that we're fighting with right now. James Carville called Trump a Nazi within the last, 48 to 72 hours. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. Oh, and that brings me to my last point. They're perfectly fine if they can't get Donald Trump in a cage until he dies, which is what they intend to do with this lawfare. They don't intend to just slap his wrist or ruin his chances to become president. They want to put him in a cage until he dies. Now, if they're unable to execute that, they're okay with him just dying. They're okay with his murder. They have ridiculously and fraudulently run around this country trying to convince us that he is some kind of cartoonish, Hitler-esque Nazi. It's insane, it's ridiculous, and frankly, you've got to be pretty dumb to believe it, because the guy was president for 4 years. He left power voluntarily. That happened. It's like, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's like, well, okay, this guy's Hitler, and he's going to, I guess, get the United States military to command them to slaughter all of his domestic enemies. Well, why didn't he do that then instead of leaving office? I mean, Hitler would have done that, right? You know, he would have said, Sieg, and G, and all the military people, of course, because they're all brainwashed fools, apparently, according to the Democrats, they all would have said, yes, okay, kill Democrats, that's what we will go do. And they would have wiped out all the Democrats, and Donald Trump would be a dictator still in power. But he didn't do that at all. He didn't do any of that. He left. So wait, now is he a dictator? Is he Hitler, or is he not Hitler? Because Hitler would have done that. So, of course, it makes no sense. It's all lies. But they're doing it simply because they think it's going to help them win. And they never back off it. You know, no matter how bad things, whatever bad things happen, they don't care. They take no responsibility. This guy almost was killed by an assassin's bullet. Then another guy wanted to kill him. He just didn't get as far. Within inches of this guy turning his head, he would have had his head blown off on national TV, and the Democrats would have rejoiced. They would have absolutely rejoiced. How do I know that? Because they've done absolutely nothing to tone down their rhetoric, to beef up security around the president, around Donald Trump. Hence the second attempt. There's been 2 attempts now in the last, 3-4 months on this guy. And there wasn't an assassination attempt on the president going back to 1981? And then you have 2? What kind of coincidence is that? That's generated on purpose. On purpose. You simply strip down his protection detail, which they've done. That's pretty much been established, that Donald Trump has been asking for more protection and they have not been giving it to him. And then you make him out to be some monster, and hopefully some leftist idiot thinking he's going to be a hero to the cause is going to try to take a shot and wipe him out. And that's happened twice now. And they are not the least bit sorry. If they were, James Carville wouldn't be running around this past Sunday calling Donald Trump a Nazi. It's offensive. It's highly, highly offensive to people like me, who basically am just a normal guy who don't like your team. I'm not totally in love with Donald Trump, but it's really offensive that you say, oh, your guy is such a monster that he deserves to be shot. Bullshit. Bullshit. You people should be ashamed of yourselves, but they're incapable of that because they're just flat evil. They're just flat evil. Really, that's what it boils down to. So, now the good news is this race is breaking right now. Donald Trump is breaking into the lead. The latest poly market numbers I looked at before I came out here to the barn, they'd already moved just 2 points today. He's already up to around 57%, meaning 57% chance of winning according to the betting markets. And that's probably your most reliable model, if you will. I would listen to or rely on that more so than your pollster expert data models. The most famous one, what was it, Nate Silver said Hillary Clinton had, what, a 95% chance of winning in 2016. And then his answer was, well, I said Trump had a 5% chance and that came in. So, well, what are you going to do? The betting markets are the ones where people are actually putting their money on the outcome. And these are people not all just, Bill in his trailer with his PayPal account. This is people in the know are possibly putting money on this. So I think those numbers, 57% chance Donald Trump wins at this point, and that's just going up right now. And you can see it. You can see it. Kamala Harris has done interviews. She hasn't done well in the interviews. She's now going places that she would not go before. She's going to be interviewed by Fox. She was terrified of Fox, and I'm sure she still is. But she's desperate, so she's got to go on Fox. And I'm not worried that she's going to give some Ronald Reagan interview where everybody then goes, wow, I never really thought that Kamala Harris could be president. But after that interview, I'm changing my mind. She's incapable of doing that. I read a piece today by a fellow named of Cook. I'm pretty sure he's the guy that does the Cook. I don't know. I honestly don't know if he's the same Cook as the Cook Political Report or he's a different Cook that just writes for the National Review. And he's a never Trump guy. He in the article he said that Trump was a lunatic. I don't agree with that. Biden's an asshole. I agree with that. And that Harris is an idiot. And I thought, idiot? I mean, yeah, she's not bright. She's not bright. A flat-out idiot, I don't know I'd go that far. She's trying to do something that is incredibly difficult here in politics. She's trying to be something she's not. She's had a whole career of leftist politics, a whole career of being nothing but an out-and-out communist, basically. There's no position that's too radical, too left, too Marxist for her to take. Wide open borders, defund the police. Let's pay for prisoners to have sex changes and have the taxpayer pay for it. I mean, there's just no position that's too woke for her. And she's trying to tell you that those aren't her positions. You got to be Bill Clinton. You got to be Barack Obama. You got to be one hell of a liar to get people to convince them that that's where you are. And she's not them. She's just not. So I don't think that she's going to do well on Fox. She's trying to get on Joe Rogan. Rogan would be smart if he would just stay out of it. It's like, I'm not interviewing Trump. I'm not interviewing Harris. Then he's going to end up being the bad guy either way. And that's probably what he's going to do. It's just, I'm not a politician. I'm not a political podcast. Elon wants him to jump on board with Trump. Elon has, and that's thank God for him. Where would we be without him buying Twitter? For one thing, we wouldn't have proof. We would know it happened, but we wouldn't have the proof that we have. The government has coordinated with big tech. If you didn't hear about that one, Elon dumped out all the internal files from Twitter when he got there and said, look at all these emails back and forth between old Twitter and the government. Between the government saying, hey, take that down, we don't like that, that's problematic, and the Twitter people going back saying, yes, sir, we will get right on that. Yeah, it's proven that these guys colluded together to shut us up. Doesn't that piss you off? sure as hell pisses me off. Now, lastly, how did I vote? Well, we have something here in Pennsylvania, and in a lot of states you have it too now, thanks to the pandemic. It's called mail-in voting, early voting, where you get your ballot in the mail, you sign up for it, you can sign up for it well in advance, you can sign up today. The thing will show up within a week, you fill it out, and then you can do one of three things. You can put it in the mail. I don't encourage that just because I don't trust the mailman and the postal union. The thing is clearly marked as a ballot. So, some corrupt postal worker who wants to get involved, he could easily throw that away. So I would not put it in the mail. But 2 and 3, you can personally take it to a drop box and put it in there. Or number 3, you could walk it personally right to your county election office and say, here you are, sir. Here is my vote. And they will say, thank you very much. And you're done. You're done. Why are you not doing this? Jeff Blue, he's a friend of the program. He has done it. He has voted already. This man is a hero. He's a hero. Let me tell you a story. We'll call this man Boxcar Bill. In 2020, Boxcar Bill, he lives in one of the swing states. You know the ones I'm talking about. I'm not going to pin it down just because I don't want to identify this guy. But one that we lost, like Pennsylvania or Arizona, Michigan, Georgia, what have you. One that we lost, and we lost the election because we lost these states. He lives in one of these states. He is hardcore MAGA. He is not questionable. He's going to vote for Donald Trump. He was going to vote for Donald Trump. Election day comes, even though he had weeks to vote by mail or go fill out a ballot and take it to a drop box. Well, not him, because, well, we're Republicans and we vote on election day because that's just what we do. So election day comes, one thing leads to another, and he doesn't vote. He did not vote. I would not be able to look myself in the mirror if that happened to me. That's how much I hate these Democrats, these leaders of the Democrat Party. I don't hate the Democrat voters. I think those are people that just haven't taken the red pill yet. Eventually they will. Sooner or later, they'll come around to our way of thinking. Hopefully it's not too late when that happens. But the people that run the Democrat Party, the deep state, these are contemptible people. I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I screwed that up. I see the rolls here in our local Podunk Township because I'm one of the people who helps count the votes. So I see who voted in the 20 cycle, and I say to myself, that's a Trump guy, that's my neighbor. That's another Trump guy, that's another one of my neighbors. They didn't vote. What the hell? What the hell? I mean, I know these guys aren't like Biden curious. Hell, one of them had a Trump sign in his goddamn yard. I mean, what the hell? And they didn't vote. And all I could think of was, these guys, I know they travel out of town for work. I mean, it was probably just one of them deals where, despite the fact that they had a 3-4 week window where they could have voted any number of different ways, they just chose to wait till election day because that's what Republicans do. And they didn't vote. My number I've been using based on that is this, 2%. I figure about 2% of guaranteed, no doubt Trump votes aren't being cast because they wait till the last minute and then something happens on election day, you get sick, your dad dies, you're in a car wreck, there's a terrorist attack, a giant flood, an old friend comes in from out of town, locusts, whatever, and you just don't get it done. That's 2% You know, just to give you an idea, in Pennsylvania, there's approximately 3 million Trump votes cast. 2% of that is 60,000. Trump lost Pennsylvania in 20. He lost by 80,000 votes. So if we had simply voted by mail, we would have almost made up that gap just right there. It's done. It's over. Nothing can happen to take my vote away. They cannot take my vote away. I'm done. You know, I can fall down a well. I can have a heart attack. I could get hit by a bus. I could get chosen to be on the next shuttle to Mars, and I could go to Mars. I don't have to worry about it. My vote is in. There could be a terrorist attack on Election Day, an EMP attack, which takes down the grid in Republican areas of this country. No, if that happens, they're not going to delay the election. Do you think they would go through the trouble of doing that kind of attack if they didn't have that door shut? They'll go to court, and the courts will simply say, nope, that wouldn't be fair to everybody else. Too bad, so sad. You had a month to vote before that, and you chose not to, so sorry. That's what's going to happen. So get your vote in. What are you waiting for? I mean, if your wife, I'm going to assume your wife is your most treasured possession in your life. My wife would say, well, for you it would be the cats. Okay, whatever. Your cat, your wife, is hanging on a cliff. She's hanging on a cliff. Are you going to go cut your grass? Go change your oil? And then come back and pull her off the cliff? Or are you just going to pull her off the cliff? This is the most important thing you can do right now. Do it! There's nothing stopping you. Do it already. One other thing. These parties, the Donald Trump campaign, they go through the list of Republican voters and they see the votes coming in and they check them off. They say, okay, Jeff is in. We don't have to worry about him. He's in the bag. Eric is in. He's in the bag. David is in. He's in the bag. Oh, Boxcar Bill, he's still out there. All right, we got to keep chasing Boxcar Bill and make sure he gets to the polls. You're wasting everybody's time. Get your vote in, and then you can concentrate on some of these other lower propensity voters. I know that's just not the way you think, and everybody is just conditioned to vote on Election Day. The rules have changed, and we should be taking advantage of these new rules. We need every vote to beat these bastards. Forget about what I just told you, that Donald Trump has a 57% chance of winning. Do you really think that these Democrats aren't going to come out of the woodwork at 3 in the morning with bushels full of fake ballots like they always do? Of course they are. So we need every last Trump vote. Every last one. Get yours in. Make it count. Make it count. Make it count now. My God. You know, I couldn't wait to vote for Donald Trump. I would have voted for him in December of 2020 if they let me. But of course, I have had to endure 4 years of totalitarian rule with sky-high prices, being humiliated, made fun of, lied about for the last 4 years, and now finally I have a chance. Man, I would have been there 2 weeks before that if they would have let me, but I was there as soon as I could with my ballot. Here's my vote against this tyranny. Take it. This is my FU to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for whatever it's worth. And it is worth something, especially if you're in one of these swing states. Everybody's looking at us here in the swing states. Everybody's looking at us. We control what's going to happen in this country. By God, exercise your power. Use it. Thus endeth the rant. So things are looking good. I believe in free speech. Make sure you use it. We can lose this race simply by not showing up. You have 3 weeks to get your vote in. Don't wait till Election Day. Do it now. Do it now, I beg you. Hey, I believe in free speech. We'll talk again. Signing off, Eric Arnold.